In this video, we're going to look at an application of conditional probability to make a decision. So this is actually really how it's used in the real world. Lots of companies use these concepts to make predictions and spend money in certain ways, like in this example, advertising. So here's the application. A marketer needs stats to plan an advertising campaign. She wants to find which product is most likely to be purchased after a related search. So basically that means if someone goes on the internet looking for a product and then they buy it after they get done searching for it, they want to put their money into that product. Okay. So here is the information in a table. So the title of the table is in the top box that's squared, mobile search and buying behavior. Okay, so the top of the table, I'm gonna put that in red, I guess, is the product, the search, and the search and buy. Those are our categories. I have a product category, a search category, and a search and buy category. So the product is just basic variables, product W, X, Y, and Z. Search, these are all in decimals, which can be converted to percentages. So if we look at 0.46, that's the same thing as 46%. So maybe 46% of people search for product W. And on the second column, search and buy, that means they searched and they bought the product. So 16% of people did that. So that's how the table is set up. And now we're going to ask this question. We're going to find the probability a customer buys a given product that they perform a related search on. Okay. So we're going to find the probability that the person buys the product given they have performed a related search. Okay. So in mathematical notation, we're going to use this formula here, the conditional probability formula that we're used to now. So the probability that the person buys B given the search. All right. So what we need to have is a formula set up this way. So remember, on the top of our formula, the numerator is probability of S and B, search and buy, over just the probability of S, the probability of a search. So if we go back to our table, this problem's actually easy to do when it's written this way on the table. So this column here, that's just our search and buy column. Search and buy, so S and B. And this is just our S column, right? So that's just our search column. So all we have to do is just set up lots of ratios given these numbers we are given to us in the problem. So let's do all of them here. So let's do the data on product W first. Okay, so remember we got to do our probability of S and B, search and buy, over just the probability of S. All right, so from our table, for W, we'll look at W now, the probability that search and buy is the 16 here. This is search and buy, so it's going to be this one, 16.16, which is 16%, over the S, which is 46% or 0.46. So we can write that down here. So 0.16 over 0.46. And that's going to be about 43.75%. So this is going to be 0.4375, which as a percent, that is just going to be 43.75%. So when they search for that product, they buy it on a scale of 43% of the time. Look at the next one. then I'm going to do all three of them on the same slide here. So I'm going to do X, product X the long way, like we just did in the last problem. Then I'm going to put the numbers on the Y and Z over here. Okay, so X, so remember we have to do probability of S and B and, okay, over just the probability of S. Okay. So going back to the table, X, so the probability of S and B is 14%, which is 0.14. And the probability of S on that product search is 0.32. So it's going to be 0.14 over 0.32. And that's going to be 43.75, which is 43.75%. Actually, this one shouldn't be 43.75. That was a mistake. This one, product W, with your calculator, you should get 0.348, which is the same thing as 34.8%. And double check that, but that should be 34.8%. For product W, that was a calculation error. This one is 43.75. Okay. Now let's just do Y and Z. Okay. So it's the same thing. They're both going to have that same formula here. So if we look at the probability of S given B from the table, for Y, we're going to have 0.12, and the probability of S is 0.35. Okay, so this is going to be 0.35, and that's going to be 0.12. Okay, and that will be 0.4, so 0.343, which is the same thing as 34.3%. And lastly, let's look at Z from the table. So here and here. So the probability of search and buy is 0.15, and the probability of search for Z is 0.40. So 0.15 over 0.40, which is going to be 0.375, which is 37.5%. Okay, so based off these numbers that we have here, I have 37% of people buy it after searching for product Z, 34.3% for Y, 43.75% for X, and for W we had 34.8%. So we might most likely want to put most of our value and our funds into marketing product X because we get 43% bias in the long run. Okay.